Your brain is bioelectrical, and that simple understanding expands how we can work with it. You know how when you hear music with a good beat, your foot starts tapping without you even thinking about it? Your brain naturally synchronizes to rhythmic signals through a related but distinct process called brainwave entrainment. Technology-assisted hypnotherapy uses this principle to help guide your brainwaves into specific states, and it's a powerful addition that's surprisingly still rarely used in the field. So in this video, I'm going to answer 3 questions. What is technology-assisted hypnotherapy? What is the point of using brainwave technology in a hypnosis session? And what technologies do I personally use in my practice? We'll also cover safety and contraindications so you can decide whether this approach might work for you. So let's jump in. Quick note before we dive in, I'm a certified master hypnotist, not a medical doctor or licensed mental health practitioner. This video is for educational purposes and nothing here should be taken as medical advice. If you have health concerns, please consult with a qualified healthcare provider. In this day and age, we have at our disposal a growing array of brainwave technologies that can help from anything from stimulating the vagus nerve to achieving focus. And they can even help us to go deeper in our meditation practices. Because hypnosis and certain meditation practices both involve similar brainwave states, technologies that are mostly being used to deepen meditation practice can also be useful in hypnotherapy. Before I go any further, it's important to state that a hypnotherapist's training and the rapport they establish with their clients are still the most important components for any hypnotherapy session, with or without tech. However, in the hands of a skilled hypnotherapist, technology can be used to deepen the experience. What is technology-assisted hypnotherapy? Technology-assisted hypnotherapy is still standard hypnotherapy, just with the added use of brainwave technology to help achieve the optimal brainwave range during a session. Every region of the brain is oscillating at various brainwave frequencies throughout the day, shifting based on what we're doing and even what time it is. Brainwaves are the rhythmic electrical oscillations created when neurons fire in synchronized patterns. While we often view ourselves as analog, we forget that we're also bioelectrical beings, both generators and detectors of energy. Every part of your body is humming with bioelectrical activity, from the rhythmic firing of neurons to the electromagnetic field your heart produces with every beat. How does technology work with your brain's natural electrical rhythms? To understand this, we first need to talk about brainwaves. On the lowest end, we have delta, 0.5 to 4 hertz, which is the brainwave associated with sleep. It's also been recorded in meditators practicing mantra meditation, which is fascinating and makes a lot of sense when we understand the traditional mechanisms of mantras, but I'll dive into that more in future videos. Next up, we have theta, 4 hertz to 8 hertz, the brainwaves associated with light dreaming and drifting off to sleep. Theta brainwaves are also dominant in certain parts of the brain during open monitoring meditation, which is a mindfulness practice. Information consolidation may benefit from theta during the transition to sleep, so there's a connection between theta and certain types of learning as well. This is also the ideal brainwave state for hypnosis sessions requiring greater depth, like past life regressions. Then we have alpha brainwaves, 8 hertz to 12 hertz. These are the dominant brainwaves in certain parts of the brain when we mentally and physically relax. Interestingly, this is a brainwave state that supports certain types of learning as well, such as enhanced receptivity to new information. So it's not surprising then that this is the ideal brainwave state for hypnosis sessions targeting self-improvement, such as smoking cessation. Alpha brainwaves are also present during focused attention meditation practices. Evidence suggests that we're most suggestible when we're relaxed, and our brainwave dominance is somewhere between theta and alpha in certain regions of the brain. And this is also true for certain types of learning. Interestingly, this alpha-theta range also shows up in Dr. Jeff Tarrant's research on psychic mediums. When he mapped their brains using EEG technology during readings, he found increased theta and alpha activity combined with bursts of gamma waves, particularly in the right parietal lobe and occipital regions. Whether you're talking about hypnosis, meditation, or even psychic or mediumistic phenomena, there seems to be something special about that theta-alpha brainwave sweet spot. It becomes particularly important in past life regression sessions because an altered state of consciousness can lead to powerful superconscious insights, namely access to a deeper knowing beyond the ordinary conscious mind. Then we have beta brainwaves, 12 to 30 hertz, which are dominant during our waking state. This is when we're alert, aware, thinking, and even excited. And at certain beta frequencies, we can even be anxious or in a state of worry. Finally, we have gamma brainwaves, 30 Hz and above, which have only started receiving greater attention in recent decades. Gamma brainwaves are the fastest of all the brainwaves and have even been recording going up to 120 Hz. The actual maximum frequency possible is still not yet known. Gamma frequencies show up when we're hyper-focused and in a flow state, learning and experiencing heightened awareness and perception. Whenever we experience eureka or epiphany moments, gamma brainwaves are likely to be oscillating. These brainwaves are even cooler because they've been recorded in the brains of advanced meditators, people who have been meditating regularly for decades. And what's even cooler is that gamma brainwaves are even present at baseline during these meditators' day-to-day lives, indicating that meditation practices can lead to lasting positive neuroplastic changes in the brain over time. I don't currently use gamma targeting in my hypnotherapy sessions because gamma frequencies tend to be energizing, which works against the relaxation needed for hypnosis. That said, Dr. Tarrant's research on gamma bursts in psychic mediums, particularly in the right parietal and occipital regions, suggests there may be applications for deeper work like past life regression. It's an area I'm watching closely as the technology evolves, and of course I also experiment on myself. What you've likely noticed in this explanation of brainwaves is that theta and alpha brainwaves are present during some forms of hypnosis and some forms of meditation. So what's interesting is that although the stated purpose of each and the way they're each facilitated varies, there are many similarities in how the brain responds to hypnosis and to meditation. And there's a similarity in the impact on conditioning. I'm not going to get into this deeply in this video because it's a huge topic I want to explore separately, but this is precisely one of the reasons that I incorporate some meditation practice into my hypnotherapy sessions. So what is the point of using brainwave technology in a hypnosis session? Well, there are a lot of variables that come into play in life. Everything from the type of day you had before you come in for a session to the type of day I, as a hypnotherapist, have had leading up to our session together. My point is that we're all human, myself included. Even if we follow our usual routines to the letter every day will still be different because every day we are different and the circumstances that we encounter change. You might find that one day you're more receptive to hypnotic suggestion, and on another day you might be a bit less so. Brainwaves can also sometimes be a delicate balance because if you're in a high alpha, it's possible to go up into beta and have conscious thoughts interfering with the process. If you're in low theta, there is a risk of dropping into delta, below 4 Hz, and falling asleep. While I say this, however, all trained hypnotherapists, myself included, know how to properly gauge depth and adjust their language and technique to guide their clients to the ideal brainwave range with standard hypnotic techniques. So at the end of the day, technology is not necessary in hypnosis. However, with technology, we can achieve sweet spot frequency ranges more consistently and faster. Moreover, you'll be able to maintain that depth for the entire session without going up into consciousness or down into sleep. While we can't control all the variables in our lives, the use of technology helps to level the playing field a bit so that there's greater consistency between sessions and session depth. Depending on the intention of the session, the depth needed will be different. For example, the first smoking cessation session calls for a middle to low alpha range. The second reinforcement smoking cessation session can be done in a low alpha to mid theta range. For a past life regression session, the target is predominantly theta oscillations with some movement into low alpha range. Theta tends to be the most sensitive brainwave range. It's the brainwave state that's dominant every night as we fall asleep and every morning as we wake up. It's a liminal state that we transit, but we don't spend much time in. Technology can be used to suspend you in a light theta phase so that you don't doze off. While I say all of this, I also conduct several sessions completely tech-free, depending on what my clients prefer. So whether we use technology in our session together is entirely up to my clients. I never force anyone to use brainwave technology in our sessions together, and I never use any brainwave technology without their explicit permission. The brainwave technologies I use are gentle and do not force your brain into submission. Rather, they support and help speed up the entry into hypnosis and help to keep the level of depth consistent throughout the session. But remember, hypnosis still only works if you consent to it. And this is still true even if brainwave technologies are involved. Also, even if a client tells me that they'd like to go ahead with brainwave technology assistant but then change their minds on the day of the session, that's okay. And the same is true if my client says that they want me to only use standard hypnotic technique but then decide before a session that they'd like to use technology assistance after all. I price all of my sessions exactly the same, with or without brainwave technology assistance. Overall, the length of time in session will remain about the same because on one hand, and induction without technology will take a bit longer to get you into the optimal brainwave state. In the meantime, while it's faster to get into the ideal zone with brainwave tech, it takes a bit of time to set up. So in the end, both are almost equal in terms of time spent. Now let's get to the cool stuff. What kind of technology do I use? Depending on the purpose of the session, a client's suggestibility, and how the session is delivered, whether it's in person or by Zoom, I use either one technology or a combination of 2 to 3. The main technologies I use right now are as follows, however, they will probably change over time. First, I use isochronic tones for either Zoom or in-person sessions. Before I explain isochronic tones, it's worth briefly mentioning binaural beats since they're more widely known. Binaural beats require headphones. They work by playing slightly different frequencies in each ear, and your brain perceives a third beat equal to the difference between them. It's an auditory illusion that happens inside your head. Isochronic tones work differently. They're a single tone that pulses on and off at regular intervals, actual rhythmic beeps you can hear directly. Because the beat is in the sound itself rather than created by your brain, isochronic tones don't require headphones, and that's why I use them instead of binaural beats. This is important for my work because it means I can play isochronic tones through speakers while you still hear my voice guiding you through the session. The tones start a bit faster while you're still in a beta state, and then slow down into alpha or theta range. If you're ready and willing to slip into hypnosis, your brainwaves will naturally try to match the frequency of the tones. This is the simplest technology I have in my arsenal, but I've found it's just as powerful as the others I use. For the Zoom sessions, this is currently the only brainwave technology I'm able to incorporate. Isochronic tones are generally safe, however, it's best to use caution if you have epilepsy. And should you ever decide to use these on your own outside of a session, remember to avoid using them while driving or operating heavy machinery, as they can induce relaxed trance-like states. The next tech I use is a pulse electromagnetic field, or PEMF pad. I like to say PEMF because it's still understandable while being faster to say, but not everyone agrees with me on that. I'm going to keep using it because I like it. I use a PEMF pad placed under my client's head during an in-person session. Just as the brain can synchronize to rhythmic sound, like the isochronic tones I mentioned, it can also respond to rhythmic electromagnetic pulses. When the pad emits gentle pulses at the target brainwave frequency, the brain tends to follow along, a process called brainwave entrainment. If you're open to relaxing into a meditative or hypnagogic state, the PEMF pad helps guide your neural oscillations into that range. This is a gentle and safe consumer-friendly PEMF technology, but there are some contraindications. It should not be used if you have a pacemaker or other electronic implants, cochlear implants, mechanical heart valves, non-MRI safe IUDs, epilepsy, active bleeding, are pregnant, or are an organ transplant recipient or on immunosuppressive therapy. And finally, I use an audiovisual entrainment or AV device in my in-person sessions. This is audiovisual entrainment technology that includes glasses and headphones, although I use speakers in my sessions so that my hypnosis guidance can be heard. With eyes closed, the client wears glasses that pulse lights at the target brainwave frequency while listening to tones that oscillate at the same rate. The visual cortex responds first, and the entrainment effect then spreads, particularly to the parietal and central regions, promoting synchronization at the target frequency. This is a fun technology, and clients often mention the cool patterns they see, even though their eyes are closed. While it's generally safe, there are still some contraindications. It cannot be used if you have a medical history that includes epilepsy, light-induced epilepsy, or any disorder involving seizures. If you have previously sustained head trauma, if you've ever experienced a seizure of any nature, if you are currently experiencing a mental health condition or any psychiatric disorder. However, I must point out that I would not be able to conduct even a standard hypnosis session with you in this case unless you have a referral from a licensed mental health practitioner. The AVE device also can't be used if you're taking any drugs, whether medically prescribed or recreational. But to be fair, if you were to show up high on the day of our session, I would not move forward with the session. It also can't be used if you're impaired by alcohol consumption. But again, if you were to show up noticeably drunk on the day of our session, I would not move forward with the session either. Once again, the use of technology during your session is at your discretion. However, we would avoid them altogether if any of the contraindications I mentioned apply to you. Now, let's talk about the general contraindications of hypnosis, which also applies to meditation in some cases. In the case of meditation, these contraindications are only beginning to be researched and discussed now in recent years. Again, I pair hypnosis and meditation together often because they affect the brain similarly, and in fact, a lot of modern hypnotic technique is quite similar to guided meditation and guided visualization. Hypnosis and meditation are safe for most people. However, some individuals may be experiencing mental health challenges that require specialized care. You should not have a hypnotherapy session either with or without technology without the approval of your licensed mental health professional if you're experiencing any of the following: severe mental health issues such as schizophrenia or psychosis, severe depression, severe alcohol and or drug addiction. This is crucial for your well-being. And if you do have the approval of your licensed mental health practitioner, I would need them to fill out a referral form before we can move forward. Various challenging experiences also arise during our lives that can leave us feeling destabilized. I've mentioned this in an earlier video, but I think it bears repeating. It's been my experience that if my clients have recently experienced a major challenging life event, it's usually best for them to wait a bit before having a hypnosis session and perhaps even getting help from a licensed mental health practitioner. This is because right after a major life event, the critical mind is much more engaged than usual and likely absorbed in trying to make sense of what's happened. A sense of stability and safety has been compromised, and it could be a lot harder to attain a calm and relaxed state regardless of the experience level of your hypnotherapist, or if we're talking about meditation, your meditation instructor. It's also important to say that it's not a hard no on hypnosis in these circumstances, or even in the case of meditation. Just that giving yourself some breathing room to integrate what happened can make it easier to engage in the hypnotic process when it's time. Examples of major life events include experiencing a traumatic event, such as having an accident, being the victim of an assault, or witnessing something, the loss of a loved one, experiencing a relationship breakup, experiencing a significant life change, such as losing a job or being diagnosed with an illness. If you're already working with a mental health professional, please consult with them first to ensure there won't be any interference with your treatment plan before scheduling a hypnosis session. The brainwave technologies I use in my hypnotherapy practice now will likely change over time as new innovations come to market and exciting new research comes out, but I'll keep everyone updated as that happens. Right now, we're living in an exciting time when our understanding of the human brain is growing rapidly, thanks to the advances of neuroscience and brain imaging technology. This means that we're developing more effective interventions that work with the brain's natural rhythms and frequencies, but the human touch is still vital in any healing modality, and however introverted any of us may be, myself included at times, we are still social creatures that often crave some form of connection, both in good times and in bad. For that reason, human connection can never be replaced. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to hit subscribe and like this video. Remember, your consciousness is yours to shape, so use it wisely. See you next time.